Hi Year 8, today we're learning how to find a rule from a table of values. Okay, so first of all, what's a rule? Well, we've come across rules because they're equations and they look like this. So I've got three equations here, so three rules. My first one, y equals 2 lots of x plus 1. My second one, just slightly different, y equals negative 3 lots of x plus 2. And the third one, y equals 4x. And we know that we can draw up a table of values. Remembering a table of values looks like this. So it's a table where we've got x and y. 0, 1, 2, 3, and we can use our rule to fill in the table of values. So let's do that for the first one, just as a reminder. So when x equals 0, we have 2 times 0 plus 1. So 2 lots of 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. When x equals 1, we have 2 times 1 plus 1. That's 2 lots of 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. When x equals 2, we have 2 times 2 plus 1, which is 5. And when x equals 3, we have 2 times 3 plus 1, which is 7. Okay, so I've been looking at this one here. I want you to see if you can find a pattern here, because there's a tricky way to work this out. If we go from 1 to 3, what are we jumping up by? Jumping up by 2. We're adding on 2 every time. If we go 3 to 5, what are we jumping up by? 2. And from 5 to 7, 2. And have a look here, the number in front of that x is 2. It's not a coincidence, that's how we find the rule. Now there's another step that we need, and that is to find out, where does this 1 come from? Well, that 1 comes from here. When x equals 0, y equals 1. Okay, so we're going to go through those steps a little bit more, but here they are at the top for you to write in your book. So the steps for finding the rule. So the first one is to find how much the y values are jumping up or down by. So that's what I mean here. We're jumping up in this case by 2. And this number goes in front of the x. The second step is to find the y value when x is 0. So we go to our table of values, we find x equals 0, and we find the y value. And that's the number that goes next. Alright, so let's do this. We've got two examples here. I'm going to find, for the first table of values, my rule. And I know it's going to look something like this. Y equals something x plus something. And I need to find the numbers. So my first step is to work out how much the y values are jumping up or down by. So here's my y. So negative 1 up to 2. What's the difference there? I'm jumping up by 3. Let's see if it's the same. From 2 to 5 is 3, and from 5 to 8 is 3 as well. Excellent. Now that number goes in front of our x. So 3x. Now I need to find out what the next number is. So I look and see what happens when x is 0. When x is 0, y is negative 1. And that's the number that goes to finish off my equation. I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit because I don't like having the minus and the plus there. So y equals 3x. And if we've got a minus and a plus, then the minus wins. So we have y equals 3x minus 1. That's my rule. I'm going to check just to make sure I'm right by using the last two values. So y equals 8 when x equals 3. So 3 times 3 is 9 minus 1, which is 8. So it works. Excellent. Okay, next question. We're going to do the same thing. I know my answer is going to look like y equals something x plus something. So first step, looking at the y column, how much are we jumping up by? From 3 to 4, well, that's 1. From 4 to 5, that's 1 as well. And from 5 to 6 is 1 also. So that number 1 goes in front of the x. Okay, now I need to work out what the last number is. So I go to my x values and I find out what the y value is when x equals 0 and y is 3. So that's my rule. Now, we know that we don't usually need to write the 1 in front of the x, so we can write our rule as y equals x plus 3. And let's check and see if this works. So you can check with any of the pairs on the table of values, but I'm going to try the last one. So my y value is 6, so 6 equals my x value, which is 3 plus 3, 6. So 6 equals 6. Correct. Alright, now these ones are slightly different, but we follow the same process. So I know my rule is going to look like y equals something x plus something. Okay, so looking at my y column, my y row, what's happening here from 0 to -1? Well, I've gone down 1. From -1 to -2, I've gone down 1 again. -2 to -3, I've gone down again. So that number, -1, goes in front of the x. Okay, now I need to find out what that last number is. Well, when x equals 0, y equals 0 as well. So that's my last number. So this equation can be written as y equals -x, and we don't need that 0 there. So y equals -x. Let's try the second one. I know it's going to be y equals something x plus something. So let's see what happens to the y values. From 1 down to -1, how far have we gone down? We've gone down -2. From -1 down to -3, we've gone down -2 again. So that's the number in front of the x. Now we need to work out what that last number is. So we find the x equals 0, y equals 1. So our rule becomes y equals -2x plus 1.